Hi, Shim.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for making time for me. So, just for
No worries.
those who are listening for us or watching the recording, I have recently made a post about different myths about food and mental health. And a lot of you got back to me with some questions and comments. And I thought really this topic deserves a little bit more attention to my expertise can give. So I have decided to invite wonderful Shim Rivalia, who is a founder of the Gut Intuition, and she is really gut health expert. And she's also doing a lot of other amazing work with stress resilience and your health in general. So I thought she will definitely be the right person to answer those questions. So Shim, thank you so much for agreeing to to answer some questions.
No problem at all. I'm excited because there's so much crap out there, I should say, which in the long term is damaging people's health. And I just think that it's time to put it to bed. And I think it's time to get some really well-rounded, balanced information out there for people to really take on and improve the quality of their lives. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to just get into yummy conversation about these things. So
Yeah, that's great. Right. I think really people live by so many myths, and we believe as that's the truth. And I think the challenge as well with the social media that we are being only fed information that we already like, right?
yeah.
Every our feed is already filtered to the things that we already like, to the people that we already interact with. So we never really challenging ourselves out of that comfort zone. And it takes a lot of effort to actually go out and find good research and good information. So yeah, so what would you say would be from your expertise and working with a lot of gut health, what would be that biggest myth or belief that people have about gut health?
So there are many, Evelina. So I will pick one that I've had experience of people telling me about problems with their gut, and it's they seem to think that taking probiotics
Mhm.
actually will fix their gut problem that they've got. So whether they've got constipation, or whether they've got a bit of a dodgy belly or IBS symptoms or even leaky gut, they think just taking probiotics will fix the gut, and that is an absolute myth. Number one, it's pricey to buy all these probiotics, in a sense that if you don't know what's going on with your digestive system, taking a healthy supplement, something that is deemed as healthy if you don't need it, can actually go the opposite way for your digestive system. And sometimes, like most of the time, I hear a lot of people go down Holland and Barrett here in the UK, which is like a health food store, and there's a range of gut health um, supplements. And unfortunately, the people that are working there don't really have that solid knowledge of gut health. And I'm not saying that in a horrible way, it's just they work there. But in terms of like what's good for you in terms of prebiotics, probiotics, it's literally a supplement on the shelf. And I question the quality. A lot of these probiotics that sit on the shelf for a long time, that the plastics that they come in, the temperature changes in the shop as well, all affect the quality of these supplements that are on the store shelves.
So you mentioned the prebiotics, probiotics. So what's the difference?
So probiotics is basically living strain of bacteria that add to the good bacteria. That's why we take it. So it's basically we get into the mindset of go, I need more good bacteria. That's why I'm going to take probiotics to fix my dodgy belly. But prebiotics is basically like specialized plant fiber that acts like a food for good bacteria to
Oh,
diversify, basically. So it's pre and pro. So
so,
most people tend to go for probiotics.
mm,
Yeah. But the because it's a living strain in the probiotics, you have to question the quality. But before people take that step, what I would highly advise is go and find out what type of gut bacteria you currently have, because
mm,
the type of bacteria you have has to match the probiotic. it has to match that strain to the specific symptoms that you're experiencing. So for some people, they might be experiencing IBS, they might be experiencing leaky gut, even constipation, stress, all of those things, but you kind of expect a bottle with 60 capsules to fix all of those symptoms. And it just doesn't work like that at all, because you don't know the specific strain that you're lacking or have too much of. It has to match, that supplement has to match that bacteria. So actually, I would argue whether taking probiotics is a healthy thing at all. Like, you can actually reverse a lot of these symptoms from just paying attention to your diet and getting a good range of food coming into your digestive system. Then the need for a probiotic is actually a lot less.
It's interesting, like, then when we're looking at our gut health and all of the microbiota that is living there, it actually has such a big effect on our immune system, and it's not actually down to just digestive systems. It actually forms a lot of our other health mechanisms and regulatory functions, even again to the effect that, let's say, how it affects your mental health, because let's say serotonin is mainly produced in your gut. So there is a lot of things that we can do to look after our gut health, not necessarily with those probiotics, but I think, it probably has a place for it, because I've experienced myself. I actually been having bladder infections for a very long time, and very strangely, I've been taking as well some antibiotics and all sorts of things to try to get rid of it, and it would still keep reoccurring and coming back. And it was very interesting, because some specialists also recommended me a very, very specific probiotic for that infection. And I took the dose and it never came back since. So I think really misconception that it's only just gut health. I think there's so much more to it that we don't know about, how it links with all other mechanisms, systems, and immunity.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, because what you've done there is, if you've understood what strain you're lacking is what's causing the bladder infection, and then you go and find that specific probiotic to help the diversity of your gut microbiota by eliminating the stress, which is the bladder infection. It has to match, otherwise it's gonna be in conflict. Do you see what I mean? So even with like gut bacteria, if you don't have specific types of gut bacteria, you're gonna find it a hard time to get certain nutrients and vitamins in your body as well, because certain gut bacteria help break down fats, proteins, and carbs. So this actually, your gut bacteria, there's more and more science coming out right now, is that the gut bacteria actually determines your body structure at the same time. So even if you've been struggling with infections, or perhaps you've been struggling to lose weight, for example, or even put on weight, it actually goes a lot deeper than just calories in, calories out.
And what was really interesting for me is when I start studying a little bit more about brain health, and obviously links with gut and and obviously gut is called the second brain for a reason. The most interesting research that I found is when they replace specific streams of bacteria in mouse to check how it affected their behavior. And it's just been very interesting that those mice that were very extroverted and very social, and then there were some other mice that were very very shy and they prefer to play by themselves. When they changed their gut bacteria, their behaviors changed. So even our social behaviors and the way we relate to other people is influenced by that gut, and all of this microbiota is making a lot of our decisions subconsciously. So we do say gut intuition, right? As
That's why I called it the gut intuition. It's fascinating subject, to be honest, and I absolutely love it. I love what I do. Gut bacteria is a whole massive ecosystem of fungi, microbes, bacteria, all of those things. As a human body, we are we have more gut bacteria than we have cells. And cells, we have 37.2 trillion cells,
Wow.
but we have more bacteria. So yes, absolutely, we do need to make sure that everything that we do for our health is specific to us and that it's not generic to what society or social media say we should do. That it's our job as a human being to really figure out what works for our biochemistry, because whatever works for our biochemistry works for our psychology. This is where the mind-body connection comes in, because, for example, the vagus nerve itself has about 100 million communication cells going from the gut to the brain, brain to the guts, the whole gut-brain axis. So you're absolutely right, like gut bacteria does determine your mood. So
Yeah.
food affects your mood at the same time. So
Direction of those fibers, actually, I think it's nearly 90%, probably like 85% of those nerve fibers actually go from the gut to the brain, and only 15% is from the brain to the gut. So you can see that the influence is
yeah, heavily.
much greater that way.
Very, very heavily. Like the digestive system is a clever system. It's very independent when it works by itself, when it works really well. It doesn't need permission from anywhere else, but it's, I would say at the same time, it's quite delicate in a way that if we're not eating well, if we've got stress that we're not managing properly or we're not aware of, we've got infections and inflammation going on, or even we're not sleeping well, right? All of these affect the digestive system. And the minute you go into chronic stress state, that's when trouble starts to happen with the digestive tract, the whole system. And then you come up with not just one symptom, but many, many symptoms. But the unfortunate thing with that is that we tend to go down the path of, oh no, I've got back pain, let me go and see a chiropractor. Oh no, I've got, a dodgy belly, let me go see my GP. And we start spending our time and money individually when it's actually all connected. It's all connected down to, it probably started from one area and then manifested in so many different ways.
It's very interesting how we're bringing stress in this conversation, because definitely I think people don't realize how stress affects digestion and health. So again, our stress response is not designed for us to be in that mode for a long time. It's supposed to be a very short period of time where all of our resources are taken from our internal gut into our muscles, into our core strength that are needed to fight that threat. But obviously, if we are always in that fighting mode, we never actually utilizing that full digestive power and just digestion and cardiovascular system.
When we're in constant fight, flight, or freeze kind of mode, that's your vagus nerve being very, very stressed out. So that basically means when you're in that chronic state of stress all the time, there's less blood flow going to the digestive system. So there's less nutrients going there, which means that we start to end up having nutrient deficiencies. And that kind of brings me nicely on to like why people assume that getting rid of other food groups is going to help you achieve a healthy gut. It's not true at all. Even like when we're stressed out, we tend to go for one kind of food group, which is carbohydrates, like takeouts and eating out and all of those things, because we feel that we don't have any time, we're stressed out, business is busy, work is busy, I've got kids to look after. We do tend to go down the convenient route, which is okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But if we're spending too much doing it that way, that changes the diversity of gut bacteria completely. And then we go down the route of having too much of one food group more than the other, and therefore there's nutrient deficiencies occurring. It decreases the diversity of gut bacteria because it's just been fed one type of food group or two. Do you see what I mean? So
it's interesting. I think this relates to the food test that I've done recently to test not allergies, but just food intolerances. It's very interesting because there's been some things that came out of those results that I knew about. So, for example, milk and gluten, because I can feel the effect of those to my body. So I'm really trying to limit those.
Yeah.
There were some other things, for example, like eggs that were on the list that, I had no awareness of this, and it came as a big surprise because actually I'm having eggs pretty much more or less every day. So
Mm,
reading a little bit more, again, I realized that probably is my body saying enough is enough. Like just having food intolerance, it doesn't mean that you have it for life. It's your body's fluctuation and response to what is happening right now in environment and what is it exactly that we are putting into the body. So I think it's all about healthy balance and that equilibrium. And too much of one thing is not good. And if we are having the same thing all the time, then obviously your body starts to respond to it and not accept it. Um,
exactly.
right.
Like even like with, if someone is really, really strict on their diet, like it's so healthy, full of vegetables and proteins and fats and things. But even if you live like that, like you have more protein than carbohydrates. You don't even have carbs, but you have more sort of fat, salads, that kind of thing every single day. That you might feel that's healthy, but actually it's actually doing more damage to your gut microbiota. Your diet, like the diversity goes down. That's why I always say that you've got to find your middle ground with what your body likes and doesn't like. And
So,
it's like saying, exercising every day is healthy. It's not.
so what would
Like,
you say
yeah.
diet is?
Sorry.
What would you say healthy diet is? How healthy diet should look like?
I would say that the key word that comes to my mind is just having a balance that works for you, not what Weight Watchers say or Slimming World says, or what social media put out on there, or all these health magazines put in there. Go and find out, go and spend time working out what is a healthy diet for your body. Because if we're talking about gut bacteria, my gut bacteria is going to be completely different to yours, Evelina. So that means that if we've got two plates of food, the same amount, same thing, cooked the same way, how I processes it is going to be completely different to how you process it. What my body takes from that plate of food is going to be different to yours, because the types of gut bacteria that we have. That's why it's so individualized when it comes to food and weight and sleep and all of those things, even energy, and your focus, like your productivity, is very, very intricately sort of detailed within our cells, our biochemistry, and our gut bacteria.
Yeah,
So
very
for
interesting.
me, a healthy diet is all about finding your own harmony within your body, your own balance, and don't deviate away from it, like work on it. So
And some of those big myths that, we need to count our calories, for example, or we need to, all that sugar is bad and we need to completely exclude it from our diets, it's just simply wrong. It's all about balance. And yes, we're having too much processed food. Yes, we're having too much sugar, but it
yeah.
doesn't mean that it's bad in itself. And it's not calories that we should be counting really, but looking at, like you say, at how our body individually processes those different nutrients, and
Yeah.
and how we can how it absorbs, and what is it that's missing and what needs supplementing.
Exactly. Like, for example, being in the health and fitness industry, once upon a time, I used to be that person that would go, right, my fitness pal, count my calories, mustn't go over my fat, all of those things. But I've really, really learned the hard way
Mm.
that it's actually not calories in, calories out. It is important to understand calories out, but it's actually more important to understand where your calories come from and how much of that. So if a lot of your calories is coming from carbohydrates, then we know that we've got to balance that out with a bit more protein, good quality protein sources, and good quality fat sources as well. And the thing with that is you've got to question the quality of fats, carbs, and proteins as well, because too often we may go for the £1 sort of cheap stuff, and you've got to question, well, what is in the ingredients of this packet of food that says it's got 23 grams of protein, but actually it's very heavy on sugar. So a lot of these health bars and, you know, from these health food stores, a lot of people have them for breakfast and so on. And you've got to go, well, okay, I know from a marketing perspective, it says it's healthy, it's breakfast bar, it's got a good balance of, you know, whole grains, multi-grains and all of those things. But go and have a look at how much sugar is in that one bar.
Yeah, or otherwise,
Exactly.
sugar free, and you think, oh, it has no sugar, so it must be good for you. But
Some
actually,
of these, yeah,
it might have handful of good ingredients, and you know, some of these wholesome seeds and things like that that we definitely should be eating. But then it has a range of all sort of artificial additives, colorings, flavorings, and all sort of other things that, you know what, you'd be better off just having a tiny bit of natural sugar.
exactly. And even like eating a lot of fruit, like sugar is sugar, whether it's refined, processed, or whether it's natural. You've just got to have a balance of this. Like, and that's another myth a lot of people tend to have is like, if I'm eating a lot of fruit, it's okay
It's not.
because it's fruit, it's healthy. Like, yes, it is, but again, we got to look at the amounts that we're eating and not so much like how many calories there are, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, interesting. Definitely. So it's, how would you say, if somebody is looking for, you know, no awareness of what we are discussing right now and finding a lot of new insights here, what would be three main things that they can do to actually maybe find those things, like what is really good for me? How do I find, right, like we're talking about, let's say, different streams of bacteria and so on, but it's not something that you can just figure out for yourself. So what is the process of really finding that? Okay, what do I really need? And based on that, how can I adjust my diet, my health?
yeah,
Are main things that people could do?
this all starts with bringing awareness to your body. So it's a bit of a it's like taking time to do a bit of a body scan. And what I mean by that is like there are many people out there that have been suffering with the symptoms that they've been suffering. Like I know some people that have been suffering with IBS symptoms for years, which unfortunately has gone down the path of autoimmune problems and many other infections and things like that. So it's like questioning is like, what foods do I eat that my body reacts? So we have to think about process of elimination. It's not about adding, it's about going, let's see what's not working, let's see what's working. That is the best way for anybody to start without making it so expensive going down the testing supplement route or completely revamping their diet. Like you work with what you've got right now. That's the most important bit. And from there, then you can go, okay, well, this works for me. This doesn't work for me. Let me see how much my symptoms have improved. Because I'm a big believer in like looking at the tools that are available for you since the day you were born, like food, water, sleep, movement, exercise, you know, all of these things that we seem to have lost sight of over the years. And these are the sheer basics of health. And this is something that I teach a lot. I was like, you need to make sure that you do your basics health really, really well before you go even down the path of, you know, expensive doctor trips and operations and supplements and spending money here and there. And I'm like, you've got the tools. You just need to be aware of how to access those tools and how to use them, not just now, but for your life, for your lifetime.
I agree. Really, we've lost touch with our bodies. We don't know anymore how to listen to it. So again, when you look at your energy levels, for example, right, we are being told to kind of plow throughout the day, 9 to 5 and focus. And, if we have a bit of energy slump, we kind of pull ourselves out of it, have another cup of coffee, move, move around a bit and, plow. But again, from brain's point of view, we need those dips to process energy, to process a lot of other balances in our body, and also to process information. So
Yeah.
from his point of view, it needs to kind of empty those drawers of short-term memory and file it into long-term memory through, and that happens throughout the day. If we don't give our brains chance to rest, step back, and a lot of those cleansing processes does
Yeah.
not happen. And exactly the same with foods.
Yeah.
We are just not aware what our foods are doing to our body. We don't know anymore how to pay attention to it, how to read our energy levels, how to read our um, different sensations and symptoms in our body. So it's interesting. Actually, I did that once. It was a while ago, but I tried to eliminate different types of foods for 10 days. So for example, I would not have any dairy for 10 days and just would observe, what difference does that make and what happens when I introduce it back. Then let's say I would have, no gluten, then maybe some other time I'd have no meat and, or different, kind of products that you kind of just take away one thing for 10 days and just see how it feels. And it's been very, very interesting. I've learned quite a lot, and I can definitely see that even our energy, if we are eating right things, we don't have that big energy slump after the food. Actually,
Yeah,
we are much more clear mentally. We have that clarity of thinking, and our productivity is very, very different. Our energy levels are very, very different. So it's about, yes, you're right, about learning to pay attention to our bodies and experimenting, because what's right for me and what's right for you might be completely different things.
completely different things. And it's really nice, some of the points that you've made there, that kind of led me down the track of thinking. Like, often what I hear from women, especially actually women in business, is that if they're lacking focus or energy in a day and they feel really down, the biggest belief that they have is like, I've just got to push through. So they're pushing against on an empty tank. And then they feel even worse, which means that they maybe their eating habits, just to get a bit of a dopamine, sort of serotonin, feel good factor from their foods, because they've got to push through. A lot more coffee in there and other caffeine stimulated drinks, and then their sleep is affected, and then this whole cycle starts again and again. So this whole myth around, I've just got to keep pushing forward, just got to keep pushing forward, I don't want to be left behind, I don't want to be left behind. Even just that mental block that we have when we don't feel so focused and energetic in a day, just saying I've got to push forward actually does push you backwards five spaces more.
Absolutely, it does a lot of harm for us. And it's, if your body is telling you that you need to have a nap, if your body is telling you that you need to stop, if your body is telling you that you have enough, an overload of information, you can't take in more, then it's just being sensitive and paying attention to it and giving your body what it's telling you already. And if you think, our gut and all the microbiome and all of this other somatic intelligence has been there way before our rational cognitive neocortex has evolved. So there's a lot of that intuitive knowledge that we actually hold in our bodies, but we don't know
Yeah,
anymore how to read it. Yet we have
exactly.
that. So definitely, let's hope that this call and this conversation for anybody who's watching will be a little bit of a call to kind of come back home, right, to our
Yeah,
body, and pay attention to what we really need, and pay attention to all these very subtle signals that our bodies are sending to us, and
yeah.
yeah, and change our behavior, our diet, our exercise accordingly, and see what happens.
And I think, to sort of nicely round that up, like intuition, like I call it gut intuition for a reason, but intuition is a gift that we're born with, right? And it's our own, it's our signal for us. It's very individualized for every single human on this planet, but we suppress it when we don't understand how our body works. If we're not giving our body the food, the energy, the nutrients that it thrives off on, and we constantly just feed it a lot of, the wrong fuel, for example, then intuition gets suppressed. It doesn't, you can't hear it because it's so loud. Our ego is so loud in our minds, and that there's so many other distractions. We end up getting shiny object syndrome all over, and then we're like, well, that didn't work out because it was so and so's fault, and we go into this victim mindset. Like, I call it paralysis pattern, really. That's what I call it. And I think it's now needed, now more than ever, to take that pause point, take a few deep breaths, and ask yourself, what is my body really, really screaming out for? What does it need? All it takes is 2 minutes. So
Absolutely.
anyone listening, can tell me, can you gift yourself 2 minutes to just take a few deep breaths and just ask yourself, how are you today? Because this goes down the mental health well-being as well. How are you feeling today? So the emotional well-being, and where do I need to pay attention to my body? And that's the physical well-being. If you can gift yourself that, then gosh, you are on the right path of actually living a very good quality life.
Paying attention to it and just acting in sync and in tune with our minds and bodies,
Yeah.
and not necessarily listening to this kind of modern pressures of expectations and pressure that we are unnecessarily putting ourselves. And even if we think we don't have time to do that because we're so busy, we have so much to do,
Yeah.
losing out by consuming our best energy and our resources, and instead of really applying it where it makes a difference, we wasting it by fighting something externally. While if we turn our attention inwards and pay attention to what our body needs, we can actually generate a lot of energy. So
Oh, absolutely.
capacity for stress, our capacity for coping, our capacity for dealing with pressure and all of this other uncertainty and everything else that's happening around us, it
Yeah.
is not so scary and not so dangerous anymore.
Exactly. And I think we've forgotten how to build resilience, because guess what? Life, the government, the world, the way it's going, it's always going to throw challenges and setbacks. But we just need to know how to access those tools that we've got, and how to, make sure that we show up the best selves as any other day, and actually build resilience and bounce back a lot quicker. That's the whole point. It's not that like, oh my God, I have to do everything new. It's like, no, like, how can I bounce back a lot quicker? What do I need right now? What tools can I get out of my toolkit to get my energy up, get my focus up, accelerate my growth even more? And that is the key things, like building that resilience. And I think that's needed now more than ever.
Happens to us that shapes really our health and well-being, but how we respond to it and how well we are able to prepare for it and also recover after that. So thank you so much. It's been really fascinating talking to you. I'm sure we could talk for the rest of the day. I think we definitely have some more of those calls and record them. I think those conversations are so valuable, and a lot of people can find some great golden nuggets in there. So thank you very much, and yeah, I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you for having me, and I hope whoever's listening really enjoyed it and got some insights out of it. And it's been super helpful. So thank you.
Great, and I'll definitely share contact details as well in the comments. So if anybody wants to get in touch, definitely Shim is the right person to speak.
Thank you, Evelina.
Well-being. Speak soon. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.